Okay, how would you guys like to hear some cool family stories? All right. I feel like, even though we're talking good health, I feel like so far this is the M&M's show. Because think about it, we've heard from Michael, Maureen, and Marvin. All M, and M. So, very cool. But this one is a really cool story. And they just met Maureen and Marvin, but they have fascinating stories. And I want them to share it on a segment about going through life not knowing that they had relatives out there who they would discover down the road in life. So, Maureen, let's start with you, how you discovered your brothers and sisters later in life, and then we'll talk about Marvin will share his stories as well. So let's start with Maureen.
Well, I knew from the time I was little, it was my favorite bedtime story, that I was adopted, because my mom couldn't have children. She tried and tried and tried and couldn't, so they arranged the adoption before I was born. And they talked about how much she wanted a baby, and she wanted a girl so badly. She kept praying for a girl, and she was so excited, so how loved I was. So I always knew it, but I was raised Irish, and all my cousins have blonde hair. And I was just curious who I looked like, and you're always kind of curious about who your siblings are and what the story was of how you came to be. And I was an only child, so the idea of having brothers and sisters was kind of foreign to me. But I had heard that I had an older sibling by my birth mother that she kept, but she couldn't keep two kids at the time, back in the 50s. So what happened was I did a lot of research, and it led to a dead end. And then I did the Ancestry DNA. And I got as close as fourth cousins, but one of my fourth cousins was a genealogist, and he offered to do research. And it took him 2 years, but he first found my father's side, and a few months later found my birth mother's side. And it ends up that I have had 13 siblings. 10 of them are still alive, and I've met most of them. I just came back from California where I met one of my sisters.
Very cool. And Marvin, let's hear your story, which is fascinating as well.
Well, let's see, where do we start? I always thought that I was the youngest of 5, only to find out that I'm the youngest of 6. That happened due to my parents were engaged in 1943. My father was going off to war. And my mother was pregnant, which my parents knew, and none of us knew about this. This was kept private from the other 5 of us. And my grandparents went to their graves knowing the secret. My parents went to their graves knowing the secret. But from everything I've learned about this is that 75 years ago, my parents had a baby out of wedlock in the bathroom of my grandmother's house, which the doctor then came to the house, took the baby to Long Beach Hospital. My family has been in Long Beach over 100 years, and there was hush-hush. Baby was listed as Helen Smith instead of Helen Weiss. And then they put her up for adoption immediately. My grandfather came to the hospital, registered his name as Mr. Harris. From behind the scenes, he controlled everything financially for the baby, made sure that a nurse named Vivian Taylor took the baby in. Now, why do I know all this information? Well, it ends up that my wife had gone and put her ancestry tree together. She had over 500 people on her ancestry tree. During that time, about a year ago, she posted my DNA on her ancestry because I wanted to find out where I was from. It ends up, of course, Eastern European Jew, no Native American in me, even though my heart belongs to the earth. But I did find out that there was a woman that contacted us 28 weeks ago to only say that she is a direct relative to MW, whoever MW was on the ancestry tree, on the link. Ends up that she's my full-blown sister, again, who was given up at birth by my parents and by the family because they were not wed, and back in 1943 it was taboo to have a baby out of wedlock. And now she finds out, by looking at her DNA matchups, that I was top of her list, she was top of my list, and again, she's my full-blown sister. Her name is Charlotte. That's the name given to her by her adoptive parents, the Green family, which was a family of means that had she had to go to a family of means as far as my grandfather was concerned, because that's where she came from. That's her roots. And she has a daughter, a son. Daughter has no children. Son has 2 children and his wife. And she was a family of 6. Now she's a family of 68. So it's been a great. She lives here on Long Island, and it's been a great venture, and we love her immediately. And we've taken her in her family with open arms because they are our family. In fact, her daughter, who's 56 years old, turned to me after the first day meeting me and saying, "Can I call you Uncle Marvin?"
Aw.
And of course, the answer is totally yes. And my children all call her Aunt Charlotte. And it's been a wonderful trip, and I hope it continues forever.
Wow. Is that a cool segment or what? Is that a great, cool segment or what? We thank Maureen and Marvin for sharing. I just love great stories, and you guys definitely have a common bond, and it's just nothing but great things. So thank you, Maureen. Thank you, Marvin. Great stuff.
Thank you, Harold.
All right.